These are 20 hidden facts about John Ford's The Quiet Man that reveal how this beloved Irish romance almost never happened, and the secrets the director John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara took to their graves. You've probably watched John Wayne drag Maureen O'Hara across those green Irish fields a dozen times and think you know everything about this picture. But behind those gorgeous Technicolor images sits a story of struggle, sacrifice, and secrets that'll change how you see this film forever. Fact number 1. John Ford fought for 16 years to make this film. Most fans have no idea that John Ford first spotted Maurice Walsh's short story in the Saturday Evening Post back in February of 1933, and The Quiet Man didn't hit theaters until 1952, which means Ford spent 16 years trying to get this picture made. What makes this even harder to believe is that Ford purchased the film rights from Walsh in 1936 for just $10, making it one of Hollywood's greatest bargains. But having the rights meant absolutely nothing when no studio would finance it. Between 1936 and 1941, Ford won 3 Best Director Oscars for The Informer, The Grapes of Wrath, and How Green Was My Valley, yet he still couldn't convince a single major studio to back what they kept calling a silly little Irish story. Harry Cohn at Columbia told him it wouldn't earn a nickel. Daryl Zanuck over at 20th Century Fox used those exact words about it being laughed off the screen, and RKO passed without a second thought. British producer Alexander Korda seemed ready to finance the film in 1946, but that deal collapsed like all the others. Every summer for years, Ford held open his schedule along with Wayne and O'Hara, hoping this would finally be the year, and every summer there was no money. O'Hara recalled later that they joked about being too old to play the roles if it didn't happen soon, and you have to imagine the frustration Ford felt watching Oscar after Oscar collect dust while nobody wanted his passion project. Fact number 2. The breakthrough came from Poverty Row. Wayne used his clout at Republic Pictures, the so-called Poverty Row studio known for cheap B-westerns and serials, to convince President Herbert J. Yates to finance The Quiet Man. But Yates wasn't about to hand over money without insurance. His condition was simple. Ford, Wayne, and O'Hara had to first make him a guaranteed moneymaker, which is how Rio Grande came to exist in 1950 as nothing more than their contractual obligation. Think about that next time Rio Grande comes on television, because that western exists purely as the price Ford had to pay for his Irish romance. The Quiet Man became the only film from Republic Pictures to ever receive a Best Picture Oscar nomination in the studio's entire history, and it was also their first picture ever shot outside the United States. Yates stayed nervous about the whole production and wanted to rename it The Prizefighter and the Colleen, which would have been a disaster, and he also pushed for Republic's cheap True-Color process instead of real Technicolor. Ford fought him on both counts and won, thank God, or we wouldn't have those stunning images that made the film immortal. Fact number 3. John Wayne sacrificed a fortune out of loyalty. When Yates started demanding budget cuts, Wayne waived his contractual profit percentage and accepted a flat fee of $100,000 out of loyalty to his coach, which is what he called Ford. 100 grand sounds like decent money, and it was, but Wayne had a contract giving him a percentage of the profits from a film that cost $1.75 million to make and grossed $3.8 million in its first year alone. Ford had directed Wayne in Stagecoach back in '39, the picture that transformed him into a star, and The Quiet Man marked their 14th film together. Wayne knew exactly how much this story meant to Ford, so he put his money where his heart was and never looked back. Fact number 4. The production was a massive family affair. The film's credits could pass for a family tree if you knew where to look. Ford's older brother Francis Ford played Dan Tobin, the man who rises from his deathbed to watch the fight, though the brothers were estranged and never spoke beyond a short nod during production, which adds a layer of sadness to his presence on set. Ford's son Patrick served as second unit director and doubled for Victor McLaglen in the stunt work, while Ford's daughter assisted the editor, and his son-in-law Ken Curtis, who later became famous as Festus on Gunsmoke, appears singing The Wild Colonial Boy. Maureen O'Hara brought her brothers Charles Fitzsimons and James O'Hara into the cast, and Barry Fitzgerald along with Arthur Shields, who play Mickalene and Reverend Playfair, were brothers in real life named William Shields before they adopted stage names. Wayne's 4 children appear in the horse race scene when Michael was 18, Tony was 16, Patrick was 13, and Melinda was just 12. Patrick Wayne spoke his first movie lines in this film before going on to appear in over 40 pictures, and Wayne himself served as second unit director, marking his first time behind the camera. Fact number 5. The sheep dung prank and O'Hara's broken hand. That scene where Wayne drags O'Hara across the fields. hides a story that shows just how rough Ford could be on his actors and how much Wayne enjoyed the joke. Ford and Wayne kicked sheep dung onto the hill where O'Hara would be dragged face down. O'Hara and her friends kicked it off, and this went back and forth until filming began, with Wayne having the time of his life dragging her through it, while Ford refused to give her water or a towel afterward. O'Hara gave as good as she got though, because when wind whipped her hair into her eyes during a cottage scene, and Ford screamed at her to open them, she shot back asking what a bald-headed son of a bitch would know about hair lashing across his eyeballs. Wayne blocked O'Hara's slap in the kissing scene and broke a bone in her hand, and since the movie was filmed in sequential order, she couldn't wear a cast and had to endure the pain throughout the rest of filming with the kind of toughness these old Hollywood stars carried that you just don't see anymore. And if these behind-the-scenes secrets are opening your eyes to what really happened on set, make sure to hit that subscribe button because we've got 15 more facts that'll transform how you watch this classic forever. Fact number 6. Ford's brilliant 120-minute gambit. Republic Pictures demanded the film run no longer than 120 minutes, while Ford's cut ran 129 minutes, so he played the film for Republic executives and stopped it at exactly 120 minutes, right before the climactic fight scene began. Ford told them he couldn't figure out how to cut 9 minutes without ruining it, so he figured what the hell and just cut out the fight. Picture those executives sitting there watching the story build toward the fight everyone's been waiting for when suddenly Ford stops the projector. The stunned executives, desperate to see the payoff, immediately approved the full 129-minute version, which shows the kind of brilliant manipulation only someone like Ford could pull off because he knew exactly what he was doing. Fact number 7. The editor wept because Ford had cut in the camera. Film editor Jack Murray wept when he began editing The Quiet Man, not because the beauty of the film moved him, but because Ford was such a master of his craft that the film required nothing from him as an editor, other than sticking the bits of film together. Ford had cut the film in the camera with not a frame wasted or needing removal, which for those who don't know filmmaking means Ford shot exactly what he needed in exactly the right way with no coverage or extra takes. Most directors shoot lots of coverage with different angles and multiple takes to give the editor choices, but Ford knew exactly what he wanted and shot only that, demonstrating an incredible level of mastery. Fact number 8. Green appears in every single shot. Ford ensured that green, Ireland's national color, appears somewhere in every single shot of the film, and even if you've watched this picture 20 times, you've probably never noticed the clever part. Green was intentionally kept off the actors' costumes, except for O'Hara's green floral dress in the cemetery scene, so the lush Irish landscape would dominate, because Ford wanted Ireland itself to be a character in the film, and that vibrant green countryside needed to steal the show. Next time you watch it, look for the green in the background, in props, in the landscape, because Ford's attention to detail meant nothing happened by accident in his pictures. Fact number 9. The mystery whisper remains Hollywood's greatest secret. At the film's conclusion, O'Hara whispers something in Wayne's ear that causes a genuinely shocked reaction on his face, and Ford instructed her to say something that would provoke an authentic response from Duke. She initially refused, saying she couldn't possibly say that to Duke, but Ford insisted, and all three principals swore never to reveal what was said. Wayne's response to questions was always the same. "That, my friend, is a trade secret. Pappy swore both of us to secrecy." O'Hara consistently replied, "I'll never tell," and then Ford died in 1973, Wayne in 79, and O'Hara in 2015, all three taking the secret to their graves. For over 70 years, people have been asking and nobody ever broke, making this Hollywood's most famous unsolved mystery where whatever she said shocked Wayne so genuinely that Ford got the exact reaction he wanted and will never know what it was. Fact number 10. Victor McLaglen was not Irish. He was an English boxer who fought Jack Johnson's. Victor McLaglen played countless Irishmen throughout his career despite being born in Stepney, East London, of Scottish ancestry without a drop of Irish blood. But what's really astonishing about McLaglen is that before Hollywood he worked as a professional heavyweight boxer who fought world heavyweight champion Jack Johnson in a 6-round exhibition bout in Vancouver in 1909, becoming the first person to box Johnson after he won the title. The man playing Will Danaher, the hot-headed Irish squire, had actually stood in a ring with one of the greatest heavyweight champions in history, and he also boxed Jess Willard. During World War I, McLaglen served with the Irish Fusiliers and became Provost Marshal, which meant he was Chief of Military Police for Baghdad. McLaglen was 65 years old and in declining health by the time of The Quiet Man filming, so Patrick Ford did much of his stunt work for the climactic fight scene, but you'd never know it watching the film, because McLaglen sold that fight with everything he had. Fact number 11. Barry Fitzgerald's remarkable Oscar history. Barry Fitzgerald, who plays the lovable Micheline Flynn, became the only actor ever nominated in both Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor categories for the same performance in the 1944 film Going My Way, and he won Supporting Actor before the Academy changed its rules to prevent it from happening again. He also famously broke the head off his Oscar statue practicing his golf swing in his living room, forcing the Academy to replace it, and you have to wonder who else would take practice swings indoors and decapitate this prestigious award. Fitzgerald played Catholic priests in multiple films including The Quiet Man despite being Protestant, Church of Ireland, and he adopted his stage name while working as a civil service clerk to avoid trouble with his superiors while moonlighting as an actor. His real name was William Joseph Shields, and his brother Arthur Shields plays Reverend Playfair in the film. Fact number 12. The first and only second unit cinematographer to win an Oscar. Archie Stout became the first and only second unit cinematographer in history to win an Academy Award when he shared the 1953 Oscar for Best Cinematography in Color with Winton C. Hawke, and his Oscar trophy sits in the American Society of Cinematographers President's office to this day. Hawke became the only cinematographer ever to share an Oscar with a second unit director of photography, and Hawke himself was fascinating as a former Technicolor research physicist who contributed to developing the three-color Technicolor process. Caltech awarded him a degree in chemistry, and he never made a black and white feature film in his entire career because every film he shot was in color. Those rich, saturated colors in The Quiet Man, the way Ireland looks almost impossibly green and beautiful, came from the work of Hawke and Stout making Ireland look like a dream, and that Oscar was well deserved. Fact number 13. Ford's IRA connection and the name Sean Thornton. John Ford was born John Martin Feeney in Maine, to a father who came from Spittal, County Galway, and a mother from Inishmore in the Aran Islands, both Irish-speaking areas that gave Ford a deep connection to Ireland his entire life. During the Irish War of Independence in 1921, Ford visited County Galway and witnessed his cousin Michael Thornton's cottage being burned down by the Black and Tans, British irregular forces known for their brutality. Under the pretense of scouting film locations, Ford reportedly gave money to the IRA before being beaten by British soldiers and deported. And the main character's name Sean Thornton combines Ford's Irish name Sean with his cousin's surname as a deeply personal tribute that most viewers never realize. Every time Wayne says Sean Thornton, he's honoring Ford's family history and the struggles of Ireland. Ford also hired Ernie O'Malley as cultural advisor, and O'Malley was a famous IRA officer during the War of Independence and a commander of anti-treaty IRA during the Civil War, who stayed on set daily. O'Hara recalled that Ford had a great deal of respect for Ernie and they would natter away like old buddies, and having an actual IRA commander advising on the film gave it an authenticity that goes deeper than most people realize. Fact number 14. The song played 11 times was written by an Irish policeman. The Isle of Innisfree, the film's principal theme that you hear throughout the picture, was written by Dick Farrelly, an Irish policeman and amateur songwriter whose composition Ford heard and chose as the main theme before reprising it at least 11 times throughout the film. O'Hara performs an adapted version with lyrics adapted by Ford, O'Hara, and her brother Charles Fitzsimons, but Farrelly received no screen credit for his composition despite writing the song that became the emotional heart of the film. Bing Crosby's 1952 recording became a worldwide hit, which probably helped Farrelly financially, but the lack of screen credit was a raw deal that bothers anyone who knows the story. That melody is so beautiful, so perfectly Irish, that you can't imagine The Quiet Man without it. Fact number 15. The original cottage is in ruins, but recently protected. White O'Morn Cottage, Sean Thornton's ancestral home in the film, sits in Tiernakill South, County Galway, where the original thatched cottage has deteriorated significantly over the decades as tourists removed stones as souvenirs, which is both understandable and sad because people love this film so much, they literally took it apart piece by piece. The local council gave it protected status in 2015, but no restoration has occurred, and the cottage sits there slowly crumbling as a reminder of the film's enduring popularity and how difficult it is to preserve these pieces of cinematic history. An exact replica exists at the Quiet Man Museum in Congar, the only place where both exterior and interior exist together. and the museum contains the original fishing rod used in the movie, and Napoleon the horse's original harness, making it worth the visit if you ever get to Ireland. Ballyglunin train station, where Sean Thornton arrives at the beginning of the film, closed in 1976 and became derelict before being recently restored after a fundraising campaign that raised over $35,000 with support from celebrities including Liam Neeson, and it's heartwarming to see people caring enough about these locations to preserve them. Fact number 16. The first televised Academy Awards. The 25th Academy Awards on March 19, 1953, where The Quiet Man won Best Director and Best Cinematography, was the first Academy Awards ceremony ever televised, meaning Americans could watch the Oscars from their living rooms for the first time in history, and The Quiet Man was there winning awards. The film tied with Moulin Rouge and High Noon for most nominations with 7 each, and Ford's 4th Best Director win established a record that still stands unbroken because no other director has won 4 times. Frank Capra and William Wyler each won 3. But nobody else has matched Ford's 4. Ford was in London filming Mogambo during the ceremony and had no interest in attending anyway, which was typical of Ford because he didn't care about the ceremony, only about the work, and he couldn't be bothered to show up for his 4th Oscar. Fact number 17. Republic wanted to rename it The Prize Fighter and the Colleen. Herbert J. Yates was nervous about the film to an extent that deserves its own fact because he wanted to rename it The Prize Fighter and the Colleen, instead of the poetic, mysterious title The Quiet Man, which would have made it sound like a cheap B picture. Yates also pushed for Republic's cheap Trucolor process instead of genuine Technicolor, and imagine The Quiet Man without those rich, gorgeous colors, because it would have been a completely different film. Ford fought him on both counts and won, keeping the title and getting real Technicolor for a film that became Republic's biggest gamble. Republic was used to making cheap westerns with budgets under $100,000, so The Quiet Man costing $1.75 million was a fortune for them, and Yates had every reason to be nervous, but his instincts were wrong. The film became Republic's biggest moneymaker ever, and it endures while almost every other Republic picture is forgotten. Fact number 18. Maureen O'Hara. Listen to the score in her final hours. When Maureen O'Hara died in October 2015 at age 95, her family stated she listened to music from The Quiet Man during her final hours, and after all the films she made and all the roles she played, this was the one whose music accompanied her into the next world. Filmmaker George A. Romero, who directed Night of the Living Dead, reportedly also died listening to the score, and what that says about the power of this film and Victor Young's beautiful music combined with the Isle of Innisfree is hard to put into words. O'Hara remained devoted to the film throughout her life despite never receiving an Oscar nomination for any role including Mary-Kate Danaher, though the Academy finally honored her with an honorary Oscar in 2014 at age 94. She later claimed Ford used his influence to block her from receiving a nomination for this role, and whether that's true or just her perception, it shows the complicated relationship they had. Fact number 19. The Modern Legacy. The Quiet Man maintains 91% on Rotten Tomatoes with certified fresh status, which is outstanding for a film that's over 70 years old. Martin Scorsese called it one of the greatest movies of all time and based the black and white format in Raging Bull on The Quiet Man's flashback fight scene. And when one of cinema's greatest directors cites your film as inspiration, you know you've created something special. Steven Spielberg paid direct homage in E.T. the Extraterrestrial by showing E.T. watching The Quiet Man on television, introducing millions of younger viewers to the film every generation in a beautiful passing of the torch. The 70th anniversary in 2022 brought Fathom events and TCM theatrical screenings across the United States because people still want to see this film on the big screen the way it was meant to be seen. The film received a 4K scan restoration released by Olive Films in 2016, praised for making the virtuosic Technicolor palette look impossibly vivid. Fact number 20. Ford called it his favorite film. Ford himself reportedly called The Quiet Man his favorite film of all his work, and this is the man who directed The Searchers, Stagecoach, The Grapes of Wrath, and The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, masterpieces that defined American cinema, yet he chose this one as his favorite. He stated it was the sexiest picture ever, with honesty, good taste and humor, and coming from Ford, who was known for not being sentimental about his own work. That's high praise. You can see why after 16 years of fighting to make it, after compromising on Rio Grande just to get the green light, after all the struggles with Republic Pictures, because this film was his dream realized. Every frame shows the care Ford put into it with the green in every shot, the family members throughout the cast, the Irish culture and history woven into the story, and his cousin's name given to the hero, proving this wasn't just another job but something personal, Ford's love letter to Ireland, and to the immigrant experience that shaped his own family. That's probably why it endures, because you can feel the love in every frame. When Wayne and O'Hara walk through those green fields and the music swells and the whole village turns out for the fight, you're not just watching actors perform but watching Ford's dream made real, his 16-year struggle justified, his vision of Ireland preserved forever in Technicolor. The film was added to the National Film Registry in 2013, ensuring its preservation for future generations, and as long as cinema exists, people will watch The Quiet Man. They'll see Ireland the way Ford saw it, beautiful and romantic and full of characters who fight and love with equal passion, and they'll watch Wayne drag O'Hara across those fields while wondering what she whispered in his ear, and they'll listen to the Isle of Innisfree and feel that longing for a place they've never been. That's the magic of The Quiet Man, making us all a little bit Irish, a little bit in love with that green countryside and those stubborn, passionate people. Ford waited 16 years to share that magic with us, and it was worth every moment of the wait. If you enjoyed learning these hidden facts about The Quiet Man, do me a favor and hit that like button, leave a comment sharing your favorite moment from the film, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next deep dive into classic Hollywood. These stories deserve to be remembered, and channels like this only survive with your support. Until next time, may the road rise to meet you, and may you always remember that some secrets, like what Maureen O'Hara whispered to John Wayne, are worth keeping forever.